Hi everyone, I'm Angelo. I'm homeless in Northern Virginia. I've been living in my car for about 5 weeks now, and I want to talk about a story I saw about homeless people in another city. A Spokane City Councilwoman, Kate Burke, chained herself up to another person in order to protest the eviction of a homeless camp in some kind of courtyard area called Camp Hope in Spokane. Apparently the police were getting ready to evict it. Now, this story is kind of typical. Not the part where somebody of principle chains themselves up to show solidarity with people who are homeless, who are sick, who need help, who don't have the benefits and the voice to be listened to that someone like she does. But the part where people make being homeless illegal. They were going to have to be evicted. Now, I've heard stories like this before. I've heard stories where, even where people were willing hosts to the homeless, meaning they would let them sleep there. People would create a vote and say, we're passing an ordinance or a regulation saying you can't do that in our city. Why? A lot of rich people, entitled, self-centered, believe essentially that homeless people deserve to be homeless. They just deserve what they're going through. They're willing to make it too expensive to live in an area. They're willing to make healthcare inaccessible to many people. They're willing to make it so you can't get a good paying job and afford to live somewhere, but they just don't want to know about it afterwards. So then they'll pass an ordinance or regulation saying you can't sleep here overnight because it's going to bring down our property values. That's very precious to us. You should have thought about that before you became homeless. You should have thought about being richer, being white, before you decided to be homeless. And that's an attitude a lot of people have. I grew up with that attitude. That's what I just saw around me. Not many people explicitly said that. That was said, and I had read it in books and heard it from people and heard it from my dad, essentially, that, like you're not supposed to have sympathy for homeless people. That's what they deserve. And that's how I felt. That's how ignorant and calloused I was, that I had no regard for people like that. I didn't understand how stupid and selfish that attitude was. And so now here's a woman of principle. She literally put up a video, and I'm going to put it in the description. You can watch it on Twitter. A short video of her having herself chained up to another person because she wanted to show that she was going to refuse or just get arrested to prevent this homeless camp from being evicted. And why is it a law, by the way, you can pass? I don't get it. Laws are supposed to protect, life, property, supposed to protect you, from being robbed, from being cheated, extorted, murdered. Since when can you pass a law saying, I want to keep making money? I want my house to be valuable. Instead of telling homeless people they should have thought about being richer, being whiter, having more access to a job, having better parents, having more resources after they were in the military, instead of telling them they shouldn't be addicted to drugs, which is a disease, instead of telling them they shouldn't be sick, how about you all decide we should make for more affordable housing around here? It doesn't mean just coughing up money to do that, although certainly that's an option, but things like allowing for more apartments, allowing for more affordable housing units of some type, prefabricated homes, allowing for more environmentally friendly homes, supporting that. Obviously, we've got a climate disaster. We'll be looking at a lot more homeless people if we don't totally alter the way we produce energy and consume energy in our infrastructure. Why don't you all, the ones with voices, the ones people listen to, the ones with connections, with access, the ones who, know how to call your city mayor, the council person, city commission, whatever, why aren't you the ones saying, we're going to call a vote, we're going to say you can sleep here if you're homeless. You can park your car here and sleep if you're homeless, because that's outlawed a lot of places too, which I've learned, which is most places you're not allowed to sleep in your car. So the crime really is not being homeless. I mean, I'm saying in my view, the crime is not being homeless. The crime is making it so that you have to be rich to live somewhere. And being rich requires a lot of things to happen, and you have to have a lot of resources, and a lot of things have to line up. You probably have to spend $100,000 in student loans, get a really good education, work hard for years, go into debt, and then work at some big company and work your way up. Because the odds of what are the odds of just people getting rich, making your own business? It can happen. It's difficult. A lot of problems get in the way of that. There's tons and tons of businesses that fail. Meanwhile, a big business that has the access to the government, that has the ear of politicians, that can zone land for their own business, like Amazon, can get hundreds of millions of dollars in Virginia revenue, that tax revenue, public money. The state I live in the city I grew up in, Arlington, Virginia, without any public hearings, without a public vote, and get a headquarters put there, get metro entrances installed there. Basically, the city was like, we're a good boy. Tim Kaine was talking on a clip to the news saying, we want to make sure Amazon feels confident they made the right choice to do business here. What the hell is that? A politician rolling over like, I'm a good boy, sir, like a little puppy. Like, oh yes, do you want your newspaper now, Mr. Bezos? What the hell is that? How do they have $800 million to give to, not tax breaks, which, by the way, Amazon has many years to pay back, and supposedly a lot of the tax revenue won't come from Amazon directly, it'll just come from the employees paying income taxes. But why is it that we came up with $800 million to give to them and a Virginia Tech campus that's going to be nearby, metro entrances, we're going to rename the city from Crystal City to something National Landing or something. Sounds dreadful. For Amazon, and they're going to be right next to the Pentagon to lobby, to make weapons, to make drones, to make facial recognition technology, to help round up immigrants, the least able, the people who struggle the hardest for rights that we all take for granted. And they're going to be right next to the White House, where, as we saw with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, talked about how in her orientation, there were lobbyists. It was all lobbyists, giving them, corporate lobbyists, helping give the orientation. She said, where are the labor leaders? Where are the ordinary people? The people who represent, people who want a livable wage, who want affordable housing, who want accessible medical care. Oh, but it's all in the interest of the public good. These are just noble-minded public servants who are just looking out for the common interest, the well-being of the nation. That's what it's about. You don't oppose the well-being of our national interests and our nation's pursuits for what? For ordinary people, for homeless people, for people. There's not really much of a middle class. If you're middle class, you're struggling. If you're living in an apartment, you're probably barely, one paycheck away from being evicted, or one serious health emergency, or one major car problem from being evicted, or one increase in your rent. Or, in many cases, one minor violation. Oh, you were caught walking your dog without a leash. That's a violation. We'll sue you for eviction. And then you get evicted for that. And a lot of times what happens, like in D.C., low-income housing will, the landlords will sue people for eviction to be able to get them out, because that's the quickest way to get them out. A lot of people don't know how to fight. They don't even understand the legal forms. They'll get sued for eviction over sometimes as little $50, $25. I saw one case $18. I saw one case where a woman was evicted, because her son had shot and killed himself in her apartment. And the landlord said, that's a commission of a crime, discharging a firearm in the apartment, so I'm going to sue you for eviction, because that's breaking the terms of the lease. She fought it for a little bit, but then she gave up. She just wanted the struggle to end. There's no ending the struggle of losing her son. And that cold-blooded, greedy, bully landlord sued her for eviction. And then what happened? In so many of these cases, landlord redeveloped the apartments for higher income housing to move in richer people. So richer people get more access, more space, more benefits, and the poor people get concentrated into even poorer neighborhoods. And who do we make poor? Who do we keep poor? A lot of times in these eviction cases, it's poor black people. And then we say, oh, racism's over. Racism ended. We ended Jim Crow. Yeah, now we just put it behind a veil of respectability. Now it's not, we're not advocating for Jim Crow. We're not advocating for segregation. But you are. It's just legal now. And now it's behind the veil of respectability, of respecting the rules. Rules that rich, powerful white people often set up, that they know they can get through. That's not going to be an issue for them. That if their kids get busted for weed, they can afford a good lawyer. They can call the city commission or the mayor or whoever and complain. And before you know it, the cops who are doing busts in their area are going to be out of the area. They're going to leave. Because who's going to believe some poor single mother in, a housing project if they say, well, the police are brutalizing my kid? Who are you going to believe? The cop? Or this lady? Well, we're giving images all the time of supposedly why certain people, marginalized people, shouldn't be believed. Oh, they're just crying oppression. They're just trying to smear others. They're smearing white people. They're just playing identity politics. And so what happens, and again, back to this story of Camp Hope. This happens so much. People will get together and vote and say, you can't sleep here overnight. You can't park your car here. They'll put metal spikes on concrete, on benches, so that homeless people cannot even sleep on there. And this is aside from the issue of why do we even have homeless people? We have enough money. We have the resources. We have the ability. It's not like houses are just magically low. They're just all, any house costs $1 million to make. What are you going to do? We don't have millions of dollars for each person. It's not terribly expensive to house people. And it makes a lot more sense, and some cities have realized that with the spread of disease among homeless people, that it's better. It makes for the humanitarian angle, respecting people, giving them dignity, and give yourself dignity. Treat others better. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. But they realize it's better to pay money for prevention and education of disease, and rather than having to treat outbreaks after the fact. And so this woman, I have to look up her name again. Excuse me. Kate Burke, Spokane City Councilwoman. Good for her. I wish we had more people like her. When I grew up, I was taught to think that people like her were, like, you see it on the news. Why are they causing trouble? They're troublemakers. They're just angry. That's what we were taught to think. Angry, entitled. That's what the news, it's not just Fox News. CNN does it. The way they contrast and juxtapose images of, you see the cabinet meeting for the president. You see politicians meeting and talking. They're dressed in nice suits. They're meeting, in business conference rooms. They've got their paperwork in front of them. They carry out policies of brutality with a lot of formality and a lot of civility. But someone speaks up who doesn't have the same credentials as them, doesn't have the same connections. Oh, look at this angry person. They're just angry and entitled. Look how much they're demanding. The system's already fair. The country already has a level playing field for everybody. If you're sleeping in a gutter, it's because it's where you deserve. And so why are you advocating free handouts for people? That's how screwed up and lopsided the way the news portrays homeless people is, and marginalized people. So what I'm saying is, stop criminalizing homelessness. I saw this story. I was glad for that woman, and I'm angry that people have to go through this. And then there's the homeless people there who already, you're kind of taught, when you're homeless. I have it good as far as being homeless, but you're kind of taught, be submissive, stay out of the way, don't bother people. And these are people already, some of the unluckiest people there are. So we can do it. We can get them housing. We can get them places to stay. We can legalize homelessness, but it makes us see the policies that we don't want to know the consequences of. We want to pretend we all got where we are because it's just we deserved it. We were smart enough. What are the odds that certain people in certain areas get concentrated, rich, powerful, well-connected, and certain other people, they're just lazy? What is that? So some people, it's just what? The environment where they are just lazy? Or is it the policies we've had in place for hundreds of years in this country? that keep just going through a different, name change. It's no longer Jim Crow. It's no longer, it's no longer brutality against poor people. It's no longer criminalizing poverty. Oh, it's just respecting the law. It's law and order. It's keeping our property values high. So stop criminalizing homelessness. Please share this message. Somebody, I don't know, do what's necessary. Show support for this woman, Kate Burke, Spokane City Councilwoman. Again, link is in the description. And speak up for it. Say something to someone about, how homeless people are criminalized. Being homeless is criminalized. A lot of places you can't give a homeless person, say, a sleeping bag, because that's considered camping materials, and it's illegal to give them out certain places because it's illegal to camp a lot of places, meaning sleep overnight. If you're dirt poor, broke, sick, disabled, check out that video in the description. Say something to someone about how we criminalize poverty and why we pretend that it's okay to make people go into poverty in the first place and make them go into homelessness in the first place. Why is it that so many people are on food stamps in this country? If housing's so affordable, why are 50 million people on food stamps? They don't even have enough money left over after paying for housing to pay for food. If food's that important, why isn't it that much more affordable to have food and have housing? Because housing's important. So thanks for watching. Talk to someone about this. Leave your comments in the comment field below.